So why don't you give a little bit of an overview of like spatial web, and I think it'd be great to understand, how this vision of
Mhm.
spatial web came about and kind of where it's going and why it's important.
Yeah, great. No, again, thank you for having me, Paul. Always a pleasure to come just riff and hang and debate. It's always fantastic. Um, yeah, so I mean, spatial web, again, I'll just dive in and I'll probably show a short clip later. But I think, it's just really critical that every time we jump into anything future of, we have to quickly realize there's no future of anything, right? It's a continuum by definition, and it's the same kind of fluidity exists in a spatial environment, right? What is a web? Of course, there's a sort of protocols that we built that enabled us to function and create certain things based on these protocol layers. Again, if you were to go back into Web 1, Web 2, all of these different, kind of buzzwords and acronyms and definitions like broad labels that we've attached, so we can start grasping some of the shifts that are happening or what loosely fits into that category versus what doesn't. So it actually enables, from an operational standpoint, how to interact and then how do we create interface layers, application layers, and so forth. So spatial, again, what is spatial, right? There is a physicality and of course there's a metaphysicality. Of course, when you start touching metaphysical, we can start take that into like 1,000 strands. But let's kind of come back and stay true to, rather than the spiritual, the broader consciousness realm, but rather more specific to the data layers on how they actually work, right? Means, how do we connect this physical existence of ours in such a manner that can digitally, not just a highway that we're building, but they're completely interconnected, or we're able to extract value or create value or drive value based on these interconnected layers that actually exist. So if you were to go back to like Web 1 modality, of course, we had, the core TCP/IP protocols, the communication protocols, the hyper, where you're able to extract data or transfer data, ability to read information, online versus to create information. But at the end of the day, all of that is this dimensionality of data that's everywhere. The question is, how do you define boundaries of these data sets? And then what does my physical data, my tactile, like I'm touching, like the reach that you can have, versus what the touch means in the context of what it's actually trying to drive, right? So the evolution of these protocol architectures obviously led to, we've obviously witnessed the last 25 years on the original protocol that enabled for me to like literally scream to the world and say hello world, and anyone who seemed to have a connection was able to like literally see, irrespective of where you were, right, physically speaking. And but it was a two-dimensional layer because it is a streaming mechanism rather than an interactive mechanism, because I created something, I streamed it out, and then others consumed. But we are basically three-dimensional beings, but our interaction in the digital space so far has been predominantly two-dimensional screen through which we consume things, whether the screen can be a mobile device or a web or a projection system, whatever it is. Again, there's both audio aspect of the experience, the soundscapes, to the physical visual input and stimuli that we actually generate in this